Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday to everybody. How are we doing? It is snowing. It has been pouring down rain. I've probably said this to you guys at least 6 times, but I've got to tell you, like, we are literally underwater where I am. Like the backyard, you could probably swim in our backyard, and I don't have a pool. It's been raining nonstop for days on end, and about 15 minutes ago, it all switched over to snow. Like the biggest snowflakes that I have seen in a very, very long time. It's really kind of crazy. If you don't like the weather here, it's true what they say, just wait a minute. Because literally it will go from pouring down rain to the biggest snowflakes you've ever seen in your life. So that's how it is where I am. I don't know about you guys. I am so ready for spring, and I am not a warm weather person, but I'm kind of over it, to be honest with you. I'm tired of the cold rain and now this slushy snow. I can see it from where I'm at. So hi Tracy, hi Joan, hi everybody. Yep, Joan's where I'm at, you guys, and she says the snow is coming down big time. It really is. Hey Kathleen, how is everybody this morning? Hi Mimi. So today's project, this one is gonna be a fun one. And the reason that this is so fun is because this is so easy, right? I love instant gratification jewelry. Sorry, you guys are like shaking back and forth a little bit. Here we go. Stabilize you just a little bit so everybody's not going like this. So like I said, I love instant gratification jewelry, and I love it when I can put together something and show off the most amazing Jesse James beads, and it takes minimal effort, right? Who doesn't love that? Not everything has to be super complicated, and this is certainly not. This is going to be quick, easy. We're going to do it more than once. We're going to use head pins, we're gonna make bangle bracelets, and it's gonna be good. You're gonna be able to walk away from today's project and go and make yourself some bangle bracelets and just fill your arm up with arm candy. It's gonna be so good. I'm really looking forward to it. We have actually done this project not here on Jesse James Beads necessarily, but we have taught this project as Jesse James Beads to a couple of class situations, and this project always goes over really, really well because everybody can do this. Absolutely everybody can do this. Before we get down to it though, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So right now, buy one, get one on the boho beads. You guys, if you've not checked out the boho beads, go look. They're so, so pretty. They come in sets of, most of them come in sets of 2, but you can get some of the smaller ones in sets of 4. You just have to look. So go over to the Jesse James Beads webpage. Like the very first set that comes up is a set of 4 black and white minis. Oh gosh, they're so, so pretty. If you love Jesse James Beads boho beads, because I mean Jesse James beads are gorgeous no matter what, right? But boho beads is one of the things that makes Jesse James beads, like I can spot a boho bead a mile away. Somebody has one on, I immediately know those are my people, right? So the boho beads are where it's at, and you can go and pick these out and like kind of pick and choose the ones that you want, and buy one get one 50% off is pretty darn good. And as a matter of fact, I may be using some of these in my project tomorrow on Sara Ellis Designs. So if you want to see a boho bead project, then come back tomorrow because we're going to do something with those. But check that out, and there is also free shipping on $49 or more orders. Take advantage of that. The BOGO Boho, that's hard to say. The BOGO Boho is good until 2:22 midnight Pacific Standard Time. So in case you missed that, it's in the little header on the website, okay? So just be sure that you're keeping track of that if you're waiting. Like if you're like normal people like me, I'm usually waiting for like my money to go in at the end of the week, right? Normal people stuff. And so sometimes I have to wait to make my purchases. Keep an eye on that until the sale is good, like time, right? So, oh my gosh, Inga says, hi from Sweden. Hello. What is the weather in Sweden? It's got to be nicer than it is right here right now, as it is just wet and snowy and gross. Something else Was there something else? I never can remember. Sometimes I get going and then I totally forget. Maybe there's not anything. Oh, yes, there is one more thing to mention. I am doing a Silver Silk project tonight on Silver Silk's Facebook page at 6:30, so there's that as well. I'll remind you again at the end. But I know it's kind of hard to keep up because my schedule is kind of all over the place, but there is a rhyme and a reason to all of it. All right, so like I said, today's project, this is going to be an easy one. We're going to use some artistic wire, and we're using Artsy Wire. And you guys, if you have not had the opportunity to check out the Artsy Wire, definitely check this out. This is over on Jessie James Beads' website. What makes this a little bit different than your normal artistic wire are two things. Number one, the colors. The color selections are really, really stunning, and they have like this kind of, it's like a modelly finish to it. That's probably like, it's like, you know how an egg will have like spots and it just has like extra dimension to the color. That's the way the Artsy Wire is. It has this added dimension to the color that is on it. Comes in 4 different colors. Comes in turquoise, burgundy, mauve, and olive green. I'm going to show you all 4 of the colors. But it also comes with the crimp connectors. And I don't know if you guys can see them. I'm going to show them to you up close, of course. But you see that little guy right there? That is a crimp connector. If you've never used these before, these are brilliant. They're not brand new. This has been out for a little while, but some people have not been exposed to these, and this is absolutely genius when it comes to cold connections, because I don't know how to solder. I wish that I did. I understand the concept, but me and heat is sort of like the way me and blades are. It can be really dangerous. So I try to stay away from extreme heat and extreme sharp objects. So the crimp connectors for me is really the perfect way to finish off jewelry and make a great cold connection. I'm going to show you how to do that. All you have to have is your crimp tool, right? So kind of a weird tool to work in conjunction with wire, but I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to create some bangles. We're using the bangle bracelet. Well, they're not called the bangle bracelet. They are called the bracelet bending pliers. So we're going to be using these guys to create the bangle shape, and then we're going to walk through wrapped loops. I know you guys have seen me do them a million times, but we're going to dissect these. We're going to go slow. We're going to do a bunch of them, and we're really going to walk through these, because the number one thing that people tell me is that their wrapped loops could use some work. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to practice, practice, practice. All right, so let's get down to it. Let me show you guys some bangles that I've already made, and then we will get on with making some of our own, okay? All right. So let me turn the lights around just a little bit, make some adjustments here. Sorry about my arm, you guys. This is just, the camera is at a funny angle today. Okay, so just to show you what we are going to be creating. So the bangles are super, super easy, right? The crimp connector is here, and so that makes a solid ring out of the bangle bracelet. This is 14 gauge artistic wire, and it is the Artsy Wire, just like I said. So it comes with plenty of the crimp connectors in there. You don't have to buy them separately. You can, but over on Jessie James Beads, you can get the whole little set together, so you don't have to buy the crimp connectors individually from Beadalon. Artistic Wire, for those of you who don't know, is a Beadalon product. It is a Beadalon brand. And then showing off these gorgeous Jessie James beads, right? Oh man, this is the perfect way to load your arm up with arm candy, right? If it would focus. Hello, focus? There we, nope, just for a second. So this is one of my favorite ways to pick out my absolute favorite Jessie James beads. The boho beads would be perfect for this, right? To show off your very, very favorites, to add in some tassels, to add in some of your favorite things from Jessie James Beads, your charms, whatever you've got that you really, really love that you don't want to have a whole ton of, right? So I've made several of these, and I cannot get enough. They're quick, they're easy, they make really perfect gifts, right? But it's also such a fun way to really quickly coordinate your jewelry with what you have on, right? Because I'm forever like getting dressed and then I'm like, oh, I don't have anything that matches this. You can put this together with a little bit of practice fairly quickly. So if you needed a stack of bracelets real quick, you could certainly pick out your favorite Jesse James beads and then pop these onto one of your bangle bracelets. You could even make your bangle bracelets ahead of time and always have some on hand just for that occasion. Or you could always have them on hand for gifts, because this is the perfect way to kind of introduce somebody to the beauty that is Jesse James beads, right? All right, so easy peasy, let's get to it. These are so fun, you guys, and so easy. So these are the 3 that I've made, and you can see just how fun. I don't know. I love jewelry that has lots of movement and noise and just, yeah, it's good stuff. Oh, one of my beads came off. That's okay. All right, so let's talk about the artistic wire, shall we? So it comes in 4 different colors. This is the turquoise, and it is a very deep blue that has just like this hint of green to it. Just a whisper. Very pretty, and the color here will work with blues, greens, and also gray. I think the grays look really beautiful with this turquoise color. There is the olive green, which is also one of my favorites. This is like the perfect color for spring. This looks really beautiful. It looks great with everything, but some of my favorite colors of beads to add to this green are pinks. It just really turns it, excuse me. It turns it into a very springtime, very floral kind of design, even if you don't have any floral beads. Just adding the pops of pastels, the pinks, the lavenders with this green color is stunning. This is probably my new favorite. So this is the first time that I've actually had the mauve, and this is really beautiful. It is a purple, it's almost like a periwinkle color. Excuse me, you guys. I have a tickle in my throat. It's almost a periwinkle color, but it has like this hint of purple and hint of pink in it that makes it the mauve color. And this is the one that I used with these kind of whites and blues. So this looks really pretty with pastels, but you could go with some really deep colors with this and it would be really beautiful as well. Last but not least, we have the burgundy, and this one is awesome. This is another color that I would certainly consider a neutral, even though it is a red color. You could use this in kind of the same way that you would like to use your browns or your coppers. Is that out of focus for you guys? Because it is for me. Excuse me. I really have gotten choked up on something. Okay, so let's get to the bangle part of this, and I will show you guys how to use the crimp connectors. We're going to use the olive green color to create some of our bangles. And to make a pretty standard size bangle, you're going to need about 8.5 inches of this. Now, if you need a larger bangle, I would go up in half size increments, because before you know it, or half-inch increments rather, because before you know it, it gets really big on you and you don't realize it until you go to try to put it on, right? So 8.5 inches is going to give you a pretty standard size bangle that's going to fit over most people's hand to get to their wrist. If you need bigger, go up from there. 8.5, go to the 9. From the 9, go to the 9.5. Even come down as far as maybe 3/4 of an inch if you're worried about it getting too big. There's nothing worse than putting together a beautiful bangle and using your crimp connector and then realizing that it's too big, because you really can't take it back, right? You can trim it off, but once you've trimmed it all off, then you're pretty much stuck with a really tiny bangle. Okay, so get your piece of wire together, like I said, about 8.5 inches for this, and you want to straighten this out as much as you possibly can. It just makes it much easier to work with, and you're going to get a better round shape for your bangle if this piece of wire is straight ahead of time. And I just use my nylon jaw pliers to run it along the surface of the wire, right, to just straighten it out as much as possible. And I know I mentioned it before, but this is 14 gauge wire. You can do this with 14 gauge, 16 gauge, any of the larger gauges. I would not go any smaller than 16 gauge with a bangle bracelet, just because of the way that it will get hung on things and it might get pulled out of shape. Okay, so you definitely want to use your larger wires for a project like this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to come in with our bracelet bending pliers, and I want to show you guys what the jaw on these looks like. So it has a nylon jaw on it. There is no spring action here. This is all, you have to do the work by hand, which is fine because you have that gives you the opportunity to have lots of control. It has the curve in the jaw of the pliers. This is going to help to create the bangle shape out of the wire. It is also a really handy tool for not just bangle bracelets, but for any kind of wire situation where you need a curve. If that is going to be hoop earrings or a curve in a different kind of bracelet, this works really well with the flat artistic wires and the flat artistic wire that has the patterns on it. You can use this tool in a lot of different ways, but the bangle bracelet is probably the most popular way to use it, and it is so easy. All right, so all you want to do is you want to open up the tool and you want to take the tip of your wire, right? You don't want to start down here. You definitely want to be sure that you get the very tip of that wire into the pliers, and you just want to close the pliers over it and squeeze it closed. You don't have to use extra force because there are no springs, so this is not a spring-loaded tool. You don't have to mash on it or anything like that. You just open and close, and you're going to work down the entire length of the piece of wire. So just opening and closing and going down the wire just a little bit at a time. And you are very quickly going to work up the bangle shape for this. Okay. And we'll do this again here in just a second. For those of you who are just joining us, we will refresh on this one. Okay. All right, so I have ran the tool all the way around the piece of wire, and one of the things you're going to notice right away is that's tiny. That's never going to fit my hand. Well, that's okay, because what you're going to do is you're going to pull this apart, right, to connect your ends. That's going to give you the bigger shape, and you're going to be able to go back in with your pliers to reshape. So it's okay that it's smaller and that the wires are overlapping. We're going to adjust it and then we will put it back together. All right, let me adjust you just a tiny bit more. I feel like that might help with the focus here. Maybe not. Seems like we're just having one of those days with the camera. Okay, so excuse me. This comes with the crimp connectors, right? They're in the package, and there are several. I've used several of these, so there are some that are missing, but I do want to show you there are plenty in the package, so you've got enough to make a lot of different bangles if you want to, and you can use these crimp connectors in other ways as well. So what the crimp connector is basically just a wire tube, right? And it is made out of the exact same wire color that your bangle bracelet is made out of. So this is going to fit seamlessly onto your bracelet, and it's going to kind of disappear into the design itself. We'll talk about that more here in just a second, but I just wanted to show you it's just a little tube. It's open on both ends, and what we want from this is we want our two ends of the wire to come into the tube from either direction and meet in the middle, right? And then we're going to crimp this closed with our crimping tool, which is just our standard crimping pliers that we use for stringing, right? And creating necklaces and bracelets. So this is not typically a wire tool, but today it is going to be a wire tool. And we're only going to use one portion of the tool. So with this tool, you know that when you're crimping your bead stringing wire and your crimp tubes, that you use this back notch on the tool, right, to create that round kind of macaroni shape. And then you put it here in the pliers on the notch that's closest to the outside edge of the tool to kind of clean up that shape. This kind of crimp, or crimp connector rather, you only use this back notch of the pliers, okay? So there is a trick to getting both ends of the wire in there equally. So what I like to do is I go ahead and I put the crimp connector into the tool, right? I'm holding it in the notch of the pliers right where I want it, right at the edge so that it is flush with the edge of the tool, okay? Then before I even put the wire into the crimp connector, I bring it up to my wire, okay? And you can see where my thumbnail is right there. So I'm just laying that wire against the side of the crimp connector. I know it might be kind of hard to see. I'm laying it against the side just to kind of eyeball it and guess where halfway is going to be. And I'm marking it with my fingernail. So I know that this much of the wire has to go into the crimp. No more, right? No more of that needs to go to the inside, because if it does, you're not going to have enough room for the other end of the wire. So you always want to measure, hold it with your finger, go ahead and put that wire into the crimp connector, and then squeeze your crimp pliers, and you want to give it a good squeeze. You don't have to have Superman strength for this, but you do want to give it a good squeeze, okay? When you take it out, now your crimp connector is connected to one end of your wire, and it's only going in halfway, so you have enough room to put the other in, and you don't have to measure it, right? So they're both taking up equal amounts of space within that crimp connector. You want to come in with your crimper tool over to the other side of the crimp. So over here where we've put the other end of the wire, and then you just want to give it a really good squeeze, right? Squeeze it nice and tight. And then when you take your tool away, you want to pull on it. Give it the tug test. You want to be sure that you crimped nice and tight so that your bracelet does not pop open. Okay, so 2 things that you need to know about this before we move on to the next step. The first thing that you need to know is that the curved portion of my crimper tool, that's coming towards the outside of the bracelet where you actually see this outer portion of the crimp connector, right? It's not going to mark up the surface of the crimp connector at all. Now on the inside, you can see where the crimp tool came down and created a little notch. 2 things. 1, if you've got a notch that is deep, you've done a really, really good job. Number 2, you want this on the inside of your bangle so that when you're wearing it, you don't necessarily see this part, okay? Let me bring in one of the bangles here. If you don't like the way that that looks, right? Even though it's on the inside, if you don't like it, there are things you can do. So instead of crimping this on the on the inside like this, flip it around, do your crimping on the outside. So now you have these notches on the outside, and you can actually take little rhinestones, little cabochons, like the tiniest, and glue onto these and make the prettiest little accent to your bangle bracelet, okay? Can be done. I've seen it done. It looks amazing. Also, if you're going to wire wrap your bangle around and add extra things to it, wire wrapping or whatever else you wanted to, you can always wire wrap the outside of this to kind of turn it into more of a seamless design. But honestly, I feel like this is as seamless as you're going to get. It's very simple. There's not a lot of extra work that is involved with just the crimp, just like it is, just making sure that the notches are on the inside and you're good to go. All right, so the next thing we want to do, if we can get this camera to focus, that would be wonderful. Don't understand what is going on today. So the next thing we want to do is we want to come back in with our bracelet bending pliers, okay? Because once we've crimped, you can see it's still a nice round shape, but it is a little more oval than what I would like, okay? So I'm going to put this back into the tool, and I'm actually biting down on this section with my pliers over the crimp connector, okay? Don't worry about, don't feel like you're gonna mess up the crimp connector by doing that. Just go all the way back around your bangle, and this is gonna work harden just a tiny bit. This is also going to help to reform that shape and make it the circle that you want it to be, okay? So now you've got a bangle bracelet, and at this point, you can do anything you want to with this. I'm not I'm not limited by anything other than my imagination with this, right? There are so many different options. You can wrap fairy silk around this, artistic wire around this. You can fill the entire thing up with the beads, and it's going to look amazing. So speaking of adding beads to this, we are going to do that. Okay, so let's bring in some beads and do some wire wrapped loops. Yes, Catherine says I'm blurry. I know. I don't know why things have been very blurry today, and it's very frustrating for me because I can't see what I'm doing. Oh, Danielle says brick stitch on it. You absolutely could. That would be amazing to brick stitch all around the edge of this. You could macrame around the edge of this and it would look amazing, right? Okay, so we've got the bracelet ready to go. Now we want to add some beads to this and really dress this up. So Laurie wants to know, is this wire very strong as far as it not bending? Yes, so we're using 14 gauge wire, and when you are using the bracelet bending pliers, because they have the nylon jaw on them, it actually is going to help to work harden just a little bit, but this is sturdy wire. This is pretty substantial stuff. Anything smaller than say 16 gauge is probably not going to be strong enough for a bangle bracelet to hold up. If you're worried about it, you can always put this on a block and hammer it just a little bit with a nylon hammer, but I don't. I always feel like the 14 gauge is good to go. I don't worry that it is going to come out of shape, so that makes this the perfect gauge. All right, so I have this beautiful strand of Jesse James beads. This is Underwater Garden strand, and you can definitely get this over on jessijamesbeads.com. We're going to cut this, and we're going to use some of the beads here and create some wrapped loops and add these to our bangle bracelet to dress it up and make it really, really beautiful, okay? All right, so for those of you who are just joining us, first and foremost, welcome in. We are creating bangle bracelets with Artsy Artistic Wire, and we're going to do some wrapped loops to create some beaded dangles for our bracelet. But again, you guys could take this bangle bracelet base and do so many different things with it, okay? So I'm giving you a skill that's super quick and easy that you can take and run with it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is move some of this other stuff out of the way because I feel like that might help with the focus issue just a little bit. And we are going to trim the end of this strand and kind of decide what kind of dangles we want to add to our bracelet. So one of the first things that I notice with this strand is this beautiful rondelle. This rondelle has a matte metallic finish, which I love, absolutely love. So it's this green blue. This is going to look really beautiful. It's like made to go with this olive green Artsy wire. So Mary Ann jumped in late. That's okay. Welcome in. She wants to know, what is the name of the nylon jaw plier? So this guy right here, this is the bracelet bending plier, and you can get this over on Jesse James Beads, as well as all of the beautiful beads on jessijamesbeads.com. So, and I'll show this to you again. That won't be the last time you see it, okay? All right, so one of the first beads that I loved, like I said, was this rondelle. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna use some head pins, you guys. Normally we keep, or not keep, but normally we make knotted head pins, but today we're keeping it simple. So we are going to just use regular head pins. A lot of you already have these in your stash, and that makes it super convenient. So we're just going to thread on our bead, and let's add a little something extra to this. Let's see. Let's add a little bead cap to it, or a spacer, or whatever you want to call that. That's a really beautiful kind of daisy style spacer. And I'm gonna thread on one of these really tiny, look at that rondelle, how beautiful that is, that tiny little guy. We're gonna pop that down on top just to create some little visual interest and add some extra color to this. All right, so move these guys out of the way. We'll come back to those because we're gonna make more, right? And we're just gonna create a wrapped loop on the top here. Now, we've done this over and over again, but you know what? It is there is absolutely nothing wrong with practice. Practice makes perfect. We're going to go really, really slow, okay? You're going to need your round nose pliers for this. You're going to need your chain nose pliers for this and your cutter tool, okay? So the first thing we want to do is we want to come in with our chain nose pliers, and we're going to grab that wire right where it is exiting that bead, okay? Marianne says, thanks Sarah and JJB for the link. Wasn't going to buy any more this week, and now it's a new pair of pliers in the Secret Garden strand. You are most welcome. That's what we like. That's what we like. So you're going to have lots of fun making some bangle bracelets. Absolutely. All right, so we're grabbing that wire right as it is exiting. There is no space between the edge of my pliers, hi Sue, and the top of the bead. Now, I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to bend it 90 degrees, okay? I did not move the pliers. All I did was move the wire. I just bent it this direction, right? Over the top of the pliers. So now when I take the pliers away, there is space, right? You can see that where the wire is exiting the bead, because I was holding my pliers there, there is some space between the top of the bead and the bend in the wire. And that's exactly what you want when you're creating a wrapped loop. If you don't give yourself space, you won't have any room to create those wire wraps with. Suzanne wants to know what I cut my 14 gauge wire with. So the 14 gauge wire for the bangle bracelet, I just used my flush cutter with. And I like to use the flush cutter to keep it flush on both sides so that my measurement is correct when I go to put the crimp connector on, okay? Okay, so when you take your chain nose pliers away, then you want to come in with the round nose pliers, and you want to grab the wire so that it is running between the barrel of those pliers, okay? So when you look at it from the side, it looks like a mouth opening up. You've got your alligator mouth coming in, and it fits perfectly in that space between the bead and the bend in the wire, okay? So holding it still, again, we're not moving the tool, okay? This hand is going to stay still. We're not moving the tool at all. We're only moving the wire, taking the wire, and we're going up and over the top barrel of the pliers. And I'm holding this at such a weird angle. It's very difficult for me to see. So I kind of made a mess out of this one. Let me try again. It's the angle that I'm sitting at. All right. That's okay, because it means you guys get to see me do that one more time. We're going to do it a couple times, so no problem. Thread my beads on. Okay. Anita says, Sarah, the beads are stunning. You guys do such a... She's talking to Sarah James, by the way, who is here. Hello, Sarah. She's talking to Sarah James and says, you guys do such a great job putting the strands together. I agree. The strands are so beautiful. And it takes so much of the guesswork out of jewelry making. You know, Jessie James bead strands are already a work of art when you get them. All right, so again, grabbing that wire right as it is exiting the bead with the chain nose pliers, not moving the tool, not moving my hand. All I'm moving is the wire. Just giving it a little bend. Okay, taking the chain nose pliers away, coming in with the round nose pliers. Okay, and just like I said, like an alligator mouth, taking the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Okay, now this is the part where a lot of people get hung up. We actually are going to move the tool and our hand, this one. Okay, so I'm coming in with my other hand to hold on to the beads. And what I need to do is I need to move the jaw of the pliers out of the way, because when you look at it this direction, right, this bottom jaw of the pliers is in the way. So I cannot continue to bring the wire around to create my circle with that in the way. So what I need to do is roll the pliers this direction. I didn't move the wire, right? All I did was just move the pliers. So now instead of them going, let's see if I can grab it again, now that I'm in this weird position. Okay, so I went from having it this direction to now having it this direction. That's opened up a whole world of space, right? so that I can take this bottom wire and bring it over here. Now I have the beginnings of a loop. So when I take this off of the tool, you can see I've already created the loop that I need. All I did was just guide the wire on around in the natural path that it was already going. But first thing I had to do was move the pliers out of the way. All right, putting this back on the tool. And now I'm going to switch hands because it's easier for me to hold everything in my left hand, my non-dominant hand, and then take another pair of pliers or your fingers, whatever you are comfortable with. Grab the tail end of the wire, and then we're going to wrap around that straight section of wire between the loop and the top of the bead. There's room there to wrap around at least 3 times. And sometimes if you've got a larger loop or you've come back on your pliers a bit or whatever, you have enough room for 4. Don't force it. If you've only got enough room for 3 wraps, don't force a 4th wrap, because what you're going to do is you're going to start to crowd out your beads and you may risk cracking the bead right where that wire is. Okay, so I wrap around about 3 times, take it off of the tool, give it a good look, and then I want to come to where that wire is coming out the back, and I'm just going to trim that off, and I want to trim that as close as I can get it, right? And if I'm still worried about it, I can come in with my chain nose pliers, give it a little squeeze just to be sure that that tail end of the wire where I trimmed it is not sticking out, okay? So now the only thing that is left to do is just to open and close some jump rings and put it onto my bangle. I'm using a mixture of gold and silver. You can use a, just gold findings, just silver, whatever you want. Really doesn't make any difference. One of my favorite things about Jesse James beads is that a lot of times the metals will be mixed so that you can do either or, and I really, really love that. So I'm using some silver findings for this, but I do have that gold colored spacer in there to mix it all up. So I just opened up a 6mm jump ring, right? And just before we go forward, I opened that jump ring with 2 pairs of pliers, holding it on either side and then opening it laterally. It's just a walk open, right? Don't ever pull your jump ring side to side. Thread on my bead, and then I'm just going to hook this to my bangle, and then I'm going to use my pliers again to close that back. Make sure that I've got a good solid closure on that. All right, so Steph says, eye pins are 18 gauge, correct? What is the best size for wrapped loops? So that's not necessarily the truth. Actually, your head pins and your eye pins are going to come in a variety of different gauges. And so I think the ones that I'm using are actually a 20. There really is no good or bad when it comes to the gauge. One of the things that I look for is just that they're easy to work with. The thicker gauged head pins for me, I have a tendency to not make the best wrapped loops with them. They always look a little wonky and a little off. So I try to use head pins and eye pins that have a smaller gauge on them just because I feel like I have prettier results. But there is no right or wrong, or no real standard actually when it comes to your findings. But definitely check your packaging, because the gauge of that wire is going to be on your packaging. Okay. All right. So we've added one beautiful dangle to our bracelet, and it looks awesome just like it is, but it needs some friends to add some movement and some more color. So let's bring in another head pin. And let's do another bead or two, shall we? And then we'll look at some different beads. We can do this whole thing over again with some different beads. So I'm thinking, there's this little starfish that I love. There's so many beautiful ones to choose from. So let's do the starfish, and let's put the little rondelles on either side. So I'm just going to take my head pin and I'm going to thread on a rondelle. And now I'm going to thread on my little starfish. So cute. And actually, I want to thread him this direction. And I'll tell you why. So you can see where the hole is, where the wire is coming from the bead hole. That's an easier area for me to work in, particularly if I were going to just create a wraps loop here without adding an extra bead, than it would be to try to get down into this space in between here and wire wrap, right? So take that into consideration when you're using shapes. Whichever direction is going to be the easiest for you to work with is definitely the way you want it to go, and it doesn't change the look. So there, I've threaded on another one of the rondelles. Okay, and we're just going to do the wraps loop again. We're going to walk through the same process. We're going to grab that wire right as it is exiting that top bead with our chain nose pliers. This is important. I've seen a lot of people do this part with your round nose pliers. That's fine if that's what you're comfortable with. I feel like I get a better bend in the wire if I use my chain nose pliers, but it's totally up to you. If you use your round nose pliers for this part, you are going to get more of a rounded bend, but in the end, it's really not going to make that big of a difference as long as you're giving yourself enough space. And that's what your pliers are doing. The jaw of the pliers are actually creating the space between the bead and the bend so that you have room for your wire wraps right in here. Okay. All right. So chain nose pliers, moving those out of the way. Coming in again with my round nose pliers. And again, I'm grabbing these, I'm using it like a mouth to grab onto that wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers. Okay. All right. We're going to move the wire, not the tool. Okay. Don't move your hand. Take the wire up and over the top barrel of the pliers. Okay, so when you look at it, you've got this funny little kind of question mark shape, this weird little shepherd's hook that comes way down, right? Okay, so we were holding it like this, okay, and when you're looking at it straight on, there's no room for me to take this wire over here to the other side. So in order to get the wire over there, I've got to move the pliers. Holding onto the beads, and I'm just rolling the pliers up, right? It was a simple movement. I went from here to here. Now I've got plenty of space so that I can take the tail end of the wire and move it over to the other side. So there wasn't a wire movement there, other than just bringing it over here. Mostly it's about moving the pliers out of the way. So when you take it off and you look at it, you've got a couple of things working in your favor. You've got your loop ready to go, and you have that space that's in between here where you need to make your wire wraps, okay? I'm gonna put this back on the tool. I'm gonna switch hands, and now I'm gonna come in with my chain nose pliers to grab the tail end of this wire, and I'm going to use it to wire wrap. And I'm going to go around. Looks like I've got enough room to go 3 times. Okay. Just like so. I'm going to take it off of the tool, give it a good look. And now I'm going to come to the back, and I'm going to trim off that tail and make sure I get it as close as I can. And then give it a little squeeze with your pliers just to make sure you don't have any of that tail sticking out. Okay, and now you're ready to add this to your bangle as well. Okay, so again, I'm going to come in with a 6mm jump ring, and I'm going to grab that with my chain nose pliers on one side and my chain nose pliers on the other side. Okay. The other pair doesn't have to be bent. They can be just regular chain nose pliers. And opening laterally. It's a twist, right? Not a pull apart, just a twist. Thread on our bead, and then we're going to add it to our bangle and close it back. Okay, just making sure that we get that jump ring closed nice and tight, and we have 2 beautiful beads on our bangle bracelet. All right, so we've done 2 wraps loops. Those were pretty easy. Let's run through the bangle again one more time, look at the pliers, and then we'll do one more wrapped loop, and I will let you guys get on with your day, okay? But you can always come back to this video and re-watch the wrapped loops as many times as you need to get it down, right? Practice makes perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. I'm going to use more of the green wire because that's what I have pre-cut. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome, welcome in. We are using Artsy Artistic Wire to create some easy bangle bracelets, and we're dressing them up with our beautiful Jesse James beads. And I'm going to show you some more awesome beads that you guys can get over on Jesse James Beads. All right, so we've got 8.5 inches of our wire, 14 gauge, nice and straight. It comes with the crimp connectors. You guys have already seen me do this once, but I'm going to do it again. We're going to go kind of quickly this time. So we're using the bracelet bending pliers. We're just going to place that wire right into the jaw of the pliers and bite down all the way around, just opening and closing along the entire length of the wire. To create this rounded shape that is not only good for bangle bracelets, but is also perfect for hoop earrings or any other kind of curves that you need to make. Okay, and again, you can see the ends are overlapping. This is a tiny little bangle, but that's okay because we're going to stretch it open, right? All right, so we need our crimp connector and our standard crimping tool for this. Place your crimp connector into the back notch of your crimping tool, right? So that curved edge is what's going to be on the outer edge of your wire. And before we even place this into the crimp, first thing I want to do is make sure that's a flush cut so that it's nice and flat, because it had a little place on it, right? And I'm going to measure. So I'm just going to hold the wire up to the crimp connector and make sure that I mark it with my thumb. Only that much of the wire needs to go into the crimp connector. So I'm just going to slide that on, not moving my thumb, and I'm going to squeeze down and crimp. So Steph says, can you use regular cutters or do you need to use memory wire cutters? I'm using my flush cutters, so these are not memory wire cutters. It's just a flush cutter that has a nice flush cut on it so that the ends are going to be flat, so that it's on the inside of the crimp connector. It's not two pieces that are poking each other at points. They're laying nice and flush up against each other. Okay, so I've crimped down on one side, and I'm going to take the other end of the bangle, slide it in. And I don't have to measure because I already know that this side is only taking up half of the crimp connector, so this side's going to take up the other half. Coming in with my crimper tool with that curved edge on the outer portion, right? And I'm just going to squeeze. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to come in again with my bracelet bending pliers. And I'm just going to go right back over the bangle again, just to clean up the shape, make sure that it's nice and round, give it a once over, and make sure that it is the shape that I want. And I got to do the tug test, right, to make sure that it's not going to come undone. So we're good to go. Now we're ready to add our bangles. So there's our bangle bracelet. We're going to sit it to the side, and let's do some more beads, shall we? So this is the, let's see, this is from the Goddess collection. This is Spraya. This was a inspiration bead mix from Jesse James Beads. I'm going to pull out, let's do one of these and one of these, and we will add these. And then I will let you guys go so that you can go create your own bangle bracelets. All right, so all we're going to do is come in with a head pin. Same thing. We're just going to go slow, follow the steps. And if the beads would stop rolling back over here to me. Okay, so we're going to take our rondelle and a regular head pin. We're going to thread this on, okay? We do want to double check and make sure that the head pin is not too big for the bead that you're using, right? If your bead hole is too big, your head pin can slip right through there. Okay, we don't want that. All right, so again with our wrapped loops, we're going to go nice and slow. Grabbing that wire directly as it is exiting the bead, okay? Now, don't move your hand. only move the wire, don't move the tool. Nothing else moves but this top portion of the wire, grabbing it, bending it this direction. And mine even has a little curve in it, totally fine, okay? Did not move the tool, did not move my hand. When I take it off of the pliers created that space between the bend and the top of the bead so that I can come in with my round nose pliers. Used them like an alligator mouth to grab that wire so that it is running between the barrel of the pliers. So when you're looking at it straight on, this is what you've got, okay? Again, do not move your hand, do not move the tool. All you're gonna move is the wire, and you're gonna go up and over the top barrel of the pliers, okay? Now, again, see where the pliers, this bottom jaw of the pliers is in the way. I can't take this end of the wire and bring it over here. There's not room for me to make that movement until I move that plier out of the way. Holding the bead with my non-dominant hand, I'm not moving the wire, I'm not moving the bead. All I'm gonna do is just roll the pliers up this direction, right? So all I did was I went from here to here. That's the only movement, but that's the most important movement. So now you can see I have lots of visibility here. I can see to take that wire on around over to the other side, right? So now I have a loop. Now it's just ready to wire wrap. So I'm gonna put this back on the tool. I'm gonna switch hands, and I'm gonna come in with my chain nose pliers to grab the tail end of the wire. You can use your fingers if you want to, and I'm gonna create 3 wraps between that loop and the top of the bead where that space is, okay? Don't go more than 3 if you don't have room for more than 3, because you're going to crack the top of your bead, and you definitely don't want that. Don't force the wire wraps if there's not room, okay? There was room for 3. Taking it off of the tool, double checking. I'm going to come to the back. I'm going to trim with my flush cutter as close as I can get to those wire wraps, and if I'm unsure about it, I can come in and give it a little squeeze with my chain nose pliers, and it's ready to add to the bangle bracelet. Okay, so to do that, we're just going to bring in a 6mm jump ring, right? And 2 pairs of pliers for this. They can both be standard. They don't have to be bent. Open laterally. It's just a twist. Thread on our bead, and then we're just going to thread this on to our bangle bracelet and close it back with the same lateral movement, making sure that we have a nice, good closure. Okay, let's do it one more time, and then I will let you guys go for the day, and you can create as many of these bangle bracelets with your beautiful Jessie James beads as you have time to do. As many as you can make this afternoon. All right, so one last time, let's bring in a head pin. And where's that pearl bead that I had? This beautiful glass pearl. Love these. So we're going to thread that on. Excuse me. Okay, that's ready to go. Chain nose pliers. Grabbing that wire right as it is exiting the bead. Don't add any extra space here. You don't need it. You're going to get all the space you need with the chain nose pliers. Okay, bend that wire. Did not move the tool, did not move my hand. All I moved was that wire. Okay, letting go, taking a look. See, I didn't need to add any extra space. There was plenty of space there where the pliers were. Okay, coming in with our round nose pliers, just like an alligator mouth. Okay, chomping down right on that wire so it is running between the barrel of the pliers. That bottom barrel of the pliers is right up against the bead. Okay, again, don't move the tool. You're going to take just the wire up and over. That's all. Didn't move the tool, didn't move my hand. But you can see I can't take this over here without moving that out of the way. That bottom barrel of the pliers, that's got to get out of the way in order for me to guide that wire over. So Not moving anything except the pliers. I'm going from here to here, right? It's just a turn. That's all. Here to here. Okay? Now I've got room to guide that wire on around. That's what's going to create that loop. Now we're going to switch hands. Hey, Meredith. Okay, and now I'm going to take a pair of chain nose pliers to do my wire wrapping in this straight section between the loop and the top of the bead here. If you are comfortable using your fingers, go right ahead, but I feel like this is such a short piece of wire, I have a better time doing it if I use my chain nose pliers to grab that wire instead. And I'm just going to wrap around the bead. I've got enough room for 3. Don't force a 4th if you don't have room, right? Taking it off, giving it a good look, coming to the back, and I'm going to trim off the tail. Okay. If there's a slight little raise in that wire where I cut it, you can pinch it down with your pliers. And now it's ready to add to the bangle. 6mm jump ring. 2 pairs of pliers, opening laterally, just a twist, threading on, and then threading it on to the bangle bracelet. Okay, and then lateral motion to close those jump rings back, and that's it. You guys just want to repeat those steps as many times as you want to create as many beaded, beautiful bangle bracelets with all of your gorgeous Jessie James beads. You could make a stack of these, give them away, wear them, show them off. Super quick and easy once you practice. I'm not saying that right out of the gate you're immediately going to be able to make 5 bangles and it's going to just happen. No, you're going to practice, and it's, you know, it's going to take a little grace, a little bit of patience, but you guys are going to be creating these beautiful bangle bracelets in no time. I know it. And what helps is that not only, this is what I was looking for, do you have a tool that is going to make it much easier on you, right? This is going to make all the difference in the world when it comes to creating the bangle shape. It's nearly impossible to do it by hand, right? To shape that wire and get it into a nice bangle shape. So this plier it's everything when it comes to making a bangle bracelet or any kind of curved shape. This is where it's at. So not only do you have the tool, but you have all of the amazing Jessie James beads that you can turn into the most beautiful bangle bracelets with tons of movement, tons of color. They're going to have lots of texture. The beads are really going to make this a beautiful piece of jewelry. Something so simple as a bangle bracelet. You've got everything working in your favor. You've got this beautiful artsy artistic wire that comes in 4 amazing colors. All of the crimp connectors are in there, so you don't even have to buy those separately. And then all you got to do is pick out your very favorite Jessie James beads and just fill it up. Fill it up. You can make one bracelet with every beautiful Jessie James bead that you have, right? Fill it up and show them off. Super fun, super easy to do, makes a great gift. Definitely one that you guys, I hope, will come back to, because these skills that we've talked about, not just the wire wrapping, but the bangle creating itself, you can use in other ways, right? Those crimp connectors can be used in other wire situations. It doesn't have to be just a bangle bracelet. You can use that cold connection in any other place where you need to connect 2 of the wires, right? Without doing any soldering or any extra bulky wire wrapping. You're going to be able to use those crimp connectors to make a seamless, very unobtrusive connection between your wire ends. So, all right, that's it for me, you guys. This has been a fun one. I like it when we can kind of break it down and go slow and walk through things. So let me know how you guys feel about this tutorial. If you guys enjoyed it as much as I did, I think this is a good one, and I feel like this is going to be one that we will come back to time and time again because there's some great information here. You guys have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Please do not forget that the Boho is going on over at JessieJamesBeads.com. Beautiful addition to your bangle bracelet. So definitely check that out. Grab some of your favorite boho beads, add those to your bangle bracelets. They're going to be amazing. And come back, check me out on Silver Silk tonight at 6:30 Eastern Time, as well as tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Sara Ellis Designs, where I will be using some of those beautiful boho beads. Have a wonderful afternoon and a wonderful rest of the week. If I don't see you again, I'll see you here next time, same place next week. Bye, guys.